We celebrate the painters who compose their bright paintings, spending their time documenting great migrations. And we celebrate the people in this room today who carry the message of hope in all the words that we relay.
It's calm yet wild, the style that I speak. It deals with facts through styles and techniques that are meant to teach through speech and illuminate. And apparently lately, they allows to fumigate. What do you mean when you say I'm rebellious? If it's cause I won't be erased, then hell yes. Hip-hop without us is the chocolate cow. It doesn't exist, no way, no how. It seems to me that in the hood that's ebony, unity and love should be pumped up steadily, but it's not. And this has got to stop. The rewriting of history hurts hip-hop, insulting to a New York mentality when we saw each other as brothers and family. So if I may express only one concern, it's that you must learn. Are we having fun tonight? Yeah. We're not done with the ragamuffin. Check this out. I believe to teach hip-hop history, we deal with straight-up facts, not mysteries. Hip-hop is not Puerto Rican culture. We were trying to escape our family structure. Pop disappeared, step pop was racist. A Jibaro surrounded by all black faces. That generation erased each other. We were the first to ever embrace each other. I studied the Jubilees and Muhammad Ali. African drums and dances is part of my genes. The elements of hip-hop always existed in Puerto Rico too, so do not get it twisted. They did something they called improvisando, freestyle battle poetry in the campos. Mortal beefs entraban a machetazos off a plena palinque, salsa mambo. In the Bronx, elements mixed in ways that made the version of hip-hop that lives today. That iteration of hip-hop is characterized by Bambaataa, Cold Crush, the Fantastic Five. Heard Flash Furious, DJ Breakout. Puerto Ricans were right there, so you can't take out whatever facts do not support your narrative. Unity is an asset and love's imperative. For New York Ricans, hip-hop was home, but you won't know this cause you weren't shown. The point I'm getting at, it might be hard as y'all got kids walking around brainwashed. See what I'm saying? It's not to hurt my brother. We stick together cause we love each other. If we let them divide us, we all could burn. That's why you must learn. You are listening to original NYC hip-hop. DJ Ecstasy on the wheels of steel. Let's go. African descendant, Juan Garrido helped Ponce de Leon conquer Puerto Rico. A conquistador in 1509 when he helped bring African slaves to the island. The native population was decimated. The Spaniards brought 15,000 slaves in, forced to mine gold, built forts for masters, and stole the riches they named it after. Original ancestry gave way to a new strain of native, master and slave. Even the name Taino, a treasonous gift, renaming the race of people who have ceased to exist. The first Afro-Puerto Rican slave rebellion took place in the year 1527. But let us fast forward to NYC, the BX, the TMP. I run intelligently. Afro-Puerto Rican Arturo Schomburg curated black history through books and artwork, widely regarded in the upper echelon of people responsible for the Harlem Renaissance. I y'all study history, but y'all don't know how James Brown used the rhythms of guaguancó. The ones I heard growing up back in the hood from Puerto Ricans invoking their African blood. See, the music always helped break down the tension, and love is the element nobody mentions. It helped make the ascension from gangster friendship. I can see how it could be hard to comprehend this, so I fit words of wisdom to hateful men who ain't even from New York and they ain't from them. See, this is the reason that I'm so concerned. It's why you must learn. Mas nunca nos van a poder sacar de la historia.
On the throwdown for MCs, you know we get around. Our singing faces always seem to stand out in a crowd. But then you see us rock the spot. One class was all it took. Now you say we're wrong for you. Take a second look. Last year I had a girl. The bitch was on. After arguing arguments, say your name is involved. We used to like one another, but I didn't know.
Welcome to the Bronx Hip Hop Oral History Project. Today is Tuesday, October 28, 2025. I'm Pastor Crespo Jr., the research librarian and archivist for the Bronx County Historical Society. This morning we are joined by the Microphone Prince, a.k.a. Louis Caban, an old school rapper. But welcome, and I'll let you do your intro.
Thank you. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing good. You know, do you want to introduce yourself?
No, you can just go ahead. I have a hard time sometimes just,
Absolutely.
breaking all that stuff down.
Yeah,
I'm sure we'll get to it,
Yeah, of course. We'll hit it question by question. We like to start out all of our oral history interviews by asking you to talk about your family history, background, and if you can talk about each of your parents and where they come from.
Okay. I was born in Brooklyn. We came to the Bronx when I was about 2 years old. My mom was from Puerto Rico. I can't tell you the town. And my real father was from Puerto Rico, but they were, kind of Americanized in New York, and they spoke English and everything. And then my stepfather is from Puerto Rico, Rio Piedras.
Got it.
So, my real father wasn't in the picture. And then my mother remarried when I was about 8 years old. So he was like my parent, you know what I mean?
Yeah, of course. Did he talk about life in Rio Piedras ever? How it was like for him?
No, not really. He wasn't like an open guy, He was like, I guess I was learning Spanish because my mother never spoke Spanish before he came around. And he wasn't like that kind of person, He was pretty bad guy, you know what I mean? He was kind of abusive, verbally, physically, all that kind of stuff. So I kind of shied away from him. And in my mind, he kind of represented Puerto Rican culture because that's where my mother started speaking Spanish. And they were in a relationship, obviously, so they were playing Spanish records and all that stuff. My mother was playing the Supremes and the Temptations and the Platters, and then when he came around, they changed it to Hector Lavoe, which is all good stuff,
Right.
But yeah, my relationship with him made it so that I kind of shied away from where I felt that he represented Puerto Rican culture,
Right.
It was a weird dynamic.
Got it. Did your mother ever tell you why she came to New York or why they came to New York, the reasons?
I know they came to New York when they were young. My mother was young, but no, I really don't. We didn't have that conversation. I always identified my mother with New York and what was happening here, and not really so much until my stepfather came in and that whole thing. But no, I really don't know why. I imagine it was for the same reasons that most Puerto Ricans came in around that time. My mother was born in 1945, so she probably came around 1950 when most of the migration from Puerto Rico was happening.
Right. She probably doesn't even remember Puerto Rico much. New York was home.
Right. Is that about when it was, around 1950, that people started migrating a lot?
Heavily after World War II.
Okay.
So right after World War II, but the 50s was a big decade for migration.
Right.
But it lasted up to the 70s and the early 80s.
Right.
The Puerto Rican air migration, right?
Yeah.
And so you were born in Brooklyn, and I know you don't remember anything about Brooklyn, but what neighborhood,
Greenpoint. Greenpoint Hospital.
Got it. And where'd she first move to in the Bronx when y'all came up here?
We lived on between 162nd and 163rd and Sherman Avenue.
Got it.
Which is probably about a mile or half a mile from Yankee Stadium.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. And, you got any siblings?
Yeah, I have an older sister, Anna, and I have a younger brother, Angel.
Nice. And, you talked a little bit about the music that your parents listened to, but elaborate on that. The Platters, that's.
Yeah, it was all soul stuff, all Motown, Marvin Gaye, Supremes, early Jackson 5 and stuff. Yeah, so it was heavy African American influence in the music she was listening to. The Platters, I still love the Platters right now. Like,
Right.
Yeah, they have some classic stuff.
Yeah, the 70s R&B and soul was definitely, happening for everyone. You know. And then I guess when she married her stepfather, I guess it turned to Fania.
Yeah, and there was, I appreciated a lot of that music as well. Not really, when I started listening and analyzing the lyrics of, Willie Colon and Hector Lavoe, then I really fell in love with it, as an adult. But La Fania used to do concerts, like free concerts in St. Mary's Park. On 149th, there's a park, probably somewhere near Southern Boulevard. On 149th, there's a park, St. Mary's, and they used to come there, and they used to be out there.
Right.
Yeah, and for years, La Lupe lived on 140th Street, Brook Avenue.
Wow.
She used to be walking around La Lupe. That's went to the supermarket, It's crazy.
That is crazy. Wow. Yeah, St. Mary's has a very, very rocking history, a deep rocking history. St. Mary's Park, St. Mary's Community Center.
Right.
And as a matter of fact, they still do annual, rocking events,
Okay.
at St. Mary's Park.
That's like a precursor to breaking, right?
Yeah. Rocking was, what the Puerto Ricans were doing,
Right.
From the late 60s, on, and it's very similar to burning, right? People freestyling, but at the same time, it's meant to disrespect the other opponent, and you battle. But there's also club rocking,
What was up rocking?
It comes out of rock dance,
Okay.
And I guess up rocking, the beginning before you start, going to the ground is kind of like that homage,
Right.
To the rocking history,
Right. Okay.
So that's awesome. But at home, what kind of food did you and your family eat and you enjoy? What was the typical meal?
Rice and beans, bro. Rice and beans and chicken, aguacate. We got, we had money that week. Acapulco from the cuchifrito, ajo con gandules, cerdo, That part of the Puerto Rican culture, I was pretty in touch with.
Right. The food, yeah.
Yeah.
I hear you. That's something I definitely missed when I joined the Army and went away.
Yeah.
For sure. So, I'm assuming a lot of the R&B and the soul and even the early salsa influenced your dance career. Do you remember any like house parties at home?
No, they had get-togethers, but they weren't like that. They played all salsa music,
All salsa.
I mean, my aunts or whatever would come over and stuff like that. But, I didn't, once he came in the picture, it turned into Puerto Rico,
Right.
So, there was no, I guess that's kind of when, probably around 78, 79, I started, venturing out and, getting involved with hip hop,
Right. So you were born in 67.
Yeah.
So I mean, you were basically around 10 years old, around 77. What was it like, for a 10-year-old Luis Caban, in that neighborhood? Describe your neighborhood.
It wasn't too bad at the beginning. I used to go to Roberto Clemente High School. Roberto Clemente Intermediate School on 164th, and it was a pretty clean neighborhood. I guess they had programs back in the day because they had like the community center would have free lunch, and we would go over there, get online. You had to have your Medicaid.
Right.
You show them the Medicaid, and they would give you free lunches and food. They used to close the street on Sherman Avenue all summer, every year. So people would come out and do tie-dye t-shirts and play music and stuff like that. So it was, that was kind of, the last of when it was really a community, when I was a kid, 72, 73,
Right.
It was a community of people, like somebody else could come and grab you by your ear and pull you home and get you in trouble with your mom, and she'd be okay with it,
Right. That double discipline, and then you go home and you get your ass whooped. Excuse me.
Yeah.
Again.
Yep.
Awesome. So, life growing up, in the South Bronx, what was that? Was you consider that the South Bronx? Around Yankee Stadium? It's kind of north.
Yeah, I think South would be more, like 138, Brook Avenue, My Haven, and that kind of stuff. So we weren't that far away, but we were like in the Morrisania area.
Right.
But we traveled all over the place. And the South Bronx is where we went, when we were kind of looking for the music.
Right. And as a young kid, I look, I visit my grandkids every weekend, and they're stuck to that iPad. We didn't have that.
Yeah.
So how did you entertain yourself? What kind of kid games did you enjoy?
Oh man, I mean, early it was like Skelly's.
Right.
Remember, Levio, Bulldog, Run, Catch, and Kiss.
Right.
That's crazy. Right now you get cancer. You run, the girl is running, you chase her, and if you catch her, you get to kiss her. But those are the games that we played.
Yeah, no, I remember. I can definitely relate. For sure. What elementary school did you go to?
35, which is right next to 166. It's like 163rd between Morris and Sherman.
Got it. And while you were in elementary school, were you did you write? Did you ever get exposed to writing, graph?
Not at that age, because if I was in elementary, I had to be like 74, 75. I didn't start doing graffiti till probably about 78, 79. Like it all kind of hit me at the same time. The music and graffiti and everything that came with it, was around 78, 79. Late 78,
You're about 11, 12 years old, 78, 79.
Right.
What'd you write?
Oh, MEAR. MEAR 167. OTB, by the way.
OTB.
Yeah.
For sure.
I never met Band 2, but Said from OTB put me down. Somebody hooked me up with a meeting with him.
Right.
I lived on McClellan at this time, McClellan, right off of Sheridan, and he lived right off of Morris Avenue, like 2 blocks away. So I took my black book, and he went through it, and he gave me the go. He just told me never to use a ruler again in my life. I think he could tell that I hadn't used a ruler. He was like, don't do that. If you don't do that, you're OTB. So I was talking to Mr. Schick the other day, and he's in contact with Band 2, who was the president of OTB.
Right.
And I was like, I need to meet him because I've been saying I'm OTB all these years, and I want to make sure that I'd like to find out where Said is. I don't know if you ever, in your travels and you're documenting graffiti writers, Said 167, Said Deuce. He was, as far as I knew, he was OTB, like vice president.
Got it. I interviewed Band 2, who also goes by Deli. 167?
Sir.
Yep.
Yeah. His tag is burned. I can do his tag right now. You give me a marker or a spray can, it'll look like he did it.
You saw it that much?
Burned him up, yeah.
Now the
Bubble styles he used to do.
Right.
With little throw-offs with the silver inside and black outside. He always did the same color, the same throw-up, but it was everywhere.
Got it. Yeah, I interviewed him maybe 2 years ago. But I interviewed someone else from OTB that you were speaking about last week. Trap. Yeah. What's your history with Trap? When did you first meet him?
It had to be like 1980, and we spent the whole summer. I don't know how we used to, where we used to. I just remember that every day for the summertime we used to go out. We used to start at 10 o'clock in the morning, and we used to go rack, which is stealing basically. But we used to go buy items that were expensive. Steal items that were expensive from one bodega and sell it to another. So that's how we used to get money. We used to rack oil, cooking oil, like big cooking oil. They had bubble coats and stuff, and they would buy them from if they were $5 a bottle, we'd get $2 a bottle or whatever, and we would eat that way. And we would rack spray paint and just bomb everywhere. Mostly, we were active on the D line.
Got it.
And so one time I think I told you this the other day.
Yeah.
We were running from cops. We ran down into the station, jumped over the turnstile, and I was in the front, so I jumped into the train track to go to the other side. So there's the uptown, downtown, and the express in the middle. So the trap was kind of far behind me. So when I got to the other side, I found the ladder because it wasn't at the end of the tunnel. It was kind of in the tunnel, so you had to go in the tunnel to get to the ladder. And trap was a little dude. So I found the ladder and I came up and I walked up, and then when I walked up, he was coming straight across, so he didn't know where the ladder was. And then the train was coming. He was like, "Mir." I thought it was a little white boy. I think he had like blonde hair or really light brown afro. Real little tiny guy was on the platform. I tried to contact him the other day, but he doesn't. He told Coase, he's another graffiti writer.
Right.
I said, "Yo, try to get me in touch with Trap," and he gave me his number and all that. But then he said that Trap doesn't remember anything because he did a lot of drugs. That's what he said. That Trap said he did too many drugs to remember.
Right.
So I was like, "Oh man, but I remember. That was my boy."
All right. Let's see if I can't contact him and let him know you're looking for him.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna try to shake him. Like, "Yo, don't you remember that?" Take him back to once. It was on 170th on the D line. I had to take him back there and maybe we'll get a flashback.
I remember the first time I noticed him. It was, if I'm not mistaken, Star Wars, the documentary.
Yeah.
That he's in, and I'm like, oh.
I don't think I saw Star Wars.
Yeah.
That's great. I can't believe I'm saying that, but I think I have to go really watch the whole movie.
For sure, it's definitely an important documentary on Bronx life.
Mm-hmm.
Well, New York life.
Yeah.
For sure. So, again, what middle school did you go to?
Roberto Clemente. 66, intermediate.
Got it. Did you, when's the first time you ever saw, breakers? Did you ever notice them?
Not until 79.
Got it.
Right, summer 79, when Sugar Hill Gang came out, Rappers Delight, I would see them breaking. They would have like little outside jams. They would just play music, and inevitably somebody would always start breaking. And, somebody else would, you'd be surprised. Like, all of a sudden people just coming out of the crowd, and they're spinning on their head. I had one guy spinning on his head on concrete. Like, wow, how do you do that, man? Like, it's really amazing. It's in the movie I gave you.
Right, all right.
Man, Iceman, he's the head spin on the middle of the street.
He's definitely got a ball spot now.
Yeah, he probably had a whole ball spot that day.
Yeah, and now they got these caps. I see Kid Freeze selling these caps with the padded.
Really?
And I'm assuming they're for head spins.
That's dope.
Because I've seen the young breakers wearing them. Innovation, right?
Does it spin around or cheating or?
I guess it's just a ski cap with a
Right.
pad on top.
Okay. Okay.
Which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
And so what kind of dances were popular? That you noticed as early as you could. What were the big?
To me, it was the hustle. Like, I remember, like all these records, instant replay. They had a lot of hustle music, and I mean the hustle was really like the main dance that I remember when I was young.
Right.
And then it went to because I was kind of like the Spanish people were into the disco. I mean everybody was, but
right.
They were heavy into the disco. My parents didn't throw parties, but my aunts threw parties, and they were playing Michael Jackson, Off the Wall, all the disco stuff, and they were all good at doing it, But before hip hop took over my life, it was like the hustle.
Got it. And before we get deep, into hip hop, do you recall any gangs? I know it's kind of late,
I think by the time I started noticing, they had kind of changed from gangs to crews. Because the gangs had the sleeveless jean jackets and swastikas and all that. But I think that the older generation, the next generation, they took it to sweatshirts, but it was color coordinated. Like,
right.
I remember the Unstoppable crew had dark red with black letters. The Suicide Crew, which my cousins were like affiliated with, so I was therefore kind of affiliated with them too. Around 170th in Townsend, they used to have the bright yellow with black letters. So, everybody, it was kind of the same idea. If somebody walked through with their colors, beat them up and take their colors and hang it up in the clubhouse.
Right.
And, you go to the clubhouse and see all these bloody sweatshirts of people that, went down the wrong block. So,
Right.
Yeah, it was like, and it's messed up because, the Ghetto Brothers and the Peace and all that, but, peace only lasts for a certain amount of time, and, not everybody is down with the peace treaty, so, of course it was the Bronx, so it was always, unrest and crews, battling each other, physically.
Right. I mean, according to your recollection, what's the the first jam you ever attended?
I don't remember who it was, but it was on their 69th and Townsend. There was a schoolyard there. And there was actually two systems, and they were battling, you know. But I don't remember them really rapping. They were just kind of talking on the mic, you know, throw your hands in the air and that kind of stuff. And, you know, DJ so-and-so, whatever, you know. But yeah, I would say since 79.
Got it. And when was the first time you ventured in and got that rapping bug? You know, what was the reason? 79.
As soon as I heard Sugar Hill Gang, that's something I started writing. I knew I could do that. You know, and then, you know, obviously I found out that the Sugar Hill Gang was like a put together pop group that wasn't, you know, really down with the culture, but still that's the first record. And then it was Spoonie G and Treacherous 3. But yeah, but as soon as I heard Sugar Hill Gang, I started writing.
Got it. I mean, other than the Sugar Hill Gang, were there any rappers that you would consider mentors?
I would say it started with the Treacherous 3 because, at least for me, obviously they weren't neighborhood rappers, but, you know, after Sugar Hill Gang, first record I heard was Love Rap and the new rap language. So they were rapping in a totally different style. Like it was three of them, and they were doing it was a rapid fire style, and one would come in and say something that was like, you know, we'll call it fire, rock until the day we die, then never die. Like it was, you know, it was amazing. You know what I mean? So that would be like the first inspiration. You know.
Got it.
That really kind of blew me away.
Got it. And before you got down with any, you know, rapping groups, you know, did you have like a partner or someone that you know you rap with?
I had a partner. My cousin's name was Willie, but his MC name was Ricochet, and that was Louis D. And he had, you know, we were like we would buy records to try to imitate whatever we knew. So she had like a little turntable on one side of the room, and she had a Javiola. The ones that you open up is wood, and you open it up as a turntable inside.
Right.
And we used to be trying to mix, like, all right, start bringing it in, and we start turning down the volume over here and turning up the volume over there. You know, so this was probably like 79, 80. But yeah, that was like the first time that I got down with somebody, and we were really like rhyming and we were practicing routines and going back and forth.
Got it. And who's the first rap group that you got down with?
I would say that was the Throwdown 4. When I was in Roberto Clemente, I guess it was 1980. So I was rhyming in the back of the class. You know, I had a little book, and I was my boy Lance. You know, somebody, you know, this kid named Lance at the time, you know, now he's my brother. He passed away, God rest his soul. But he came over, hey, what you got there? So, you know, I started rhyming, and then he started rhyming. So we hit it off. We spent the time in the back of the class rhyming. And they lived in Highbridge. So it's kind of far from where I was, because you had to walk from where you were to 161st and then take a bus that would take you all the way up to Highbridge.
Right. And
then once you got up, like where the Joker steps are, that's why it's Highbridge, because it's real high up. You take the steps all the way up, and there's like a whole other side of the Bronx, you know, like the West Bronx. And yeah, so we used to go all the way up there, and then that's where we formulated the group, the Throwdown 4.
Got it. And the original name, did it go by another name? Was it? I know in our communications you had DJ Paradise and the Throwdown 4.
Right, yeah, because Paradise lived around there, and he was young, and we were his first group. Like, you know, we got down together. So, you know, yeah, technically the group was Paradise and the Throwdown 4.
Got it.
Yeah, he taught me a lot. You know, he taught me a lot. He was a couple of years older than us.
Got it.
You know, so I think that his experiences might be a little bit different than mine, because I think I got into it when hip hop was kind of taking over, and it was like a different vibe. So he may be 4 or 5 years older than me, but you know, yeah, he taught me a lot. He made me see a lot of things early.
And who's the Throwdown 4?
Throwdown 4 is Damon Hayward, Dave Ski, Lance Hayward, which is Little L, me, Louis Delight, and my boy Rockin' Rand.
Got it.
Paradise was the DJ.
Louis Delight. How'd you get that name?
It was Louis D, and then at some point everybody was something D, this one the D, whatever. You know, everybody had a D at the end of their name, so I was like, goes, Delight. So I went to that. It wasn't because the rapper's Delight.
Got it. Yeah, good. I appreciate the clarification for sure. And so what was the first event you guys got down with DJ Paradise and the Throwdown 4?
I think the first jam we did, this place called the White Building on Ogden Avenue, and it has a schoolyard, 126. So this kid named Playboy, who was down with Baron, and like the Funky Four break out in them. We did our first jam in 1981.
Got it.
And yeah, it was a lot of people there. The jams used to draw big crowds.
Got it. Wow, 1981. You 14, 15 when you first got down with that crew.
Right.
Got it. So wow, 1981 is going way back. But you weren't even in high school?
No, this is before high school. Because I was in intermediate school, so I was in I guess 8th grade, and that's when I met Lance, and went over there. So yeah, it was before high school.
All right. And is there a story on how you got down with that crew? How did it form?
Not really. We just went to the house and we just started rhyming. And it's funny because I was the only Puerto Rican in the group, but it was never that. It was never like, oh, we're going to have a secret weapon. We're going to have a Puerto Rican guy. Or, oh, wow, he can rap. Because even though he's Puerto Rican, he can still, it was just, I didn't see a difference and they didn't see a difference. And we would just be in the project writing routines and practicing and singing and going back and forth. And, we had over 100 routines.
Wow.
Over 100. We had a list and we would just pick, what routine we were going to do this week. And when there was a jam, we would go out there and do it.
Wow, for a young group, that's a lot of routines, a lot of memorizing.
Yeah, and mostly me and Damon would write. Lance would write sometimes, but me and Damon were always writing. We would take, because Cold Crush had this thing where they would take like songs, Simon and Garfunkel songs or whatever, and they would rewrite the lyrics and play a beat, and they would sing, whatever they would sing, using the melody or something else. So, boom, that's what we started doing. So we, whatever it was all different. We could take from Kenny Rogers, anybody, commercials, any kind of like anthems like da 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 da. We write a routine off of that, and it was good times, man.
Nice. That's awesome. So, did you guys hit any clubs? You're still in middle school, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember going to any clubs, or was you just in jams?
It was all street stuff. We used to know where the clubs were. There was a club called the Ecstasy Garage on Jerome Avenue, around 170th. There was the T Connection, there was Harlem World. So we would see the flyers, but we were young.
Right.
13 years old. We didn't have money to get in or anything. So we just did what we did in the street.
Right. Now, what high school did you were in the Bronx, but what high school did you go to?
I went to the high school of art and design.
In Manhattan?
Yeah, 57th Street, Manhattan.
Got it.
Because I was into the graffiti heavy by then.
Right.
So I kind of wanted to go for that. We had to. You couldn't just get into art and design. You had to, pass like an art test and stuff. So, I passed and we went to art and design.
Right, and you, art and design had a competitor school, right? It was music and art.
Music and art, yeah.
That's right. I remember they were neighborhood writers, that went to art and design also.
Right.
Yeah,
I don't remember any really famous writers out of art and design at that time, but I know that they had a history, of graffiti writers coming out of there.
Got it. Did you meet anyone involved in hip hop, at that school?
I met Faye, who used to go to school with us, but we were like
the Pop or Boogie Boy.
Yeah. We were like the ones that were I met Capone. His name was Busy D back in the day. So Capone he's a comedian, a very successful comedian. He's done movies with Rockefeller, and he's been hosting the talent show at the Apollo every Wednesday night for like the last 20 years.
Wow.
So he's like the permanent host of the Apollo. So I met him, and his name was Busy D. And yeah, we got together, it was 3 of us. Al Ski, Busy D, and Louis Delight. And we were kind of the main hip hop group in the school. And we would battle people at lunchtime. You had different lunch periods, and we would go off our lunch period We would just bang on the desk and battle. Everybody would gather around, and then we would stay and battle whoever was from the next lunch period, that we heard was doing something, battle them, so.
Got it. And who was T-Rock in the turnout too?
So T-Rock was also in art and design. It was three of us and T-Rock. So he was my DJ, God bless his soul. He died. He's my daughter's godfather. So T-Rock was somebody, TNT knows him. He brought him up the other day. He was like, yo, my man, Grandchild T-Rock. I was like, well, that was my DJ.
MC TNT?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So T-Rock used to live on Creston Avenue, right next to Grandmaster Cass from the Cold Crush. So he was a DJ, and then he started coming to school. So I had a Cold Crush tape that I was trying to sell to T-Rock. And he was like, yo, if I want a Cold Crush tape, I'll go to Grandmaster Cass' house and make one. I was like, wow, you know Cass? He was like, yeah. Started talking, we made a little group, T-Rock. It was the turnout 3, but then Alski wound up, he got into remember the Dahlia Huevo music?
Yeah.
He was lost to the Huevo crowd forever. We started going around T-Rock's house, and he lived right around the corner from Cass. So certain days, Cass lived on the first floor on 1A, and certain days I would have the window open, you could look in and see the Cold Crush practicing. You know what I'm saying? So I was like, wow, you know what I mean? So yeah, that was my boy T-Rock, man. And his father, anybody who knows that the early groups were promoted and did shows, Fantastic Five, Cold Crush and them, was through Ray Chandler. Ray Chandler was a big promoter in the Bronx, and his partner was Poppy. Poppy was T-Rock's stepfather. So, he put us on a couple of shows because, we were good and we were doing stuff at his house. So, yeah.
And when did you go from Louis Delight to the Microphone Prince?
It started as a title. Everybody started having titles. It started with Grandmaster Cass so the title that influenced me was a kid named DLB from the Fearless Four. And his name was the Microphone Wizard. He was DLB, but his name was the Microphone. So it was the Microphone Wizard, DLB, the Mighty Mike C, the Devastating Tito, and the Great Peso. So everybody had like a thing that you would put in front of your name, So the Microphone Wizard was crazy to me. So I was like, I want to be the Microphone Prince. It was based on that. But I don't want to be the Microphone King. I don't want to be like, I'm God or I'm better than everybody. I just want to be like the son of the king. I'll be happy with being, the son of the king. So I was like, Microphone Prince. So it was the Microphone Prince, Louis Delight. But in 83, 84, when I was in the High School of Art and Design, a friend of mine named Paula told me that there was a small independent record label that was doing auditions. So it was called Still Rising Records. So I went over there and I auditioned and I got a deal right away. So the first record I did was Louis Delight. It was 1984. But he knew that I was the Microphone Prince Louis Delight, and his name was Ron Seaborn. He was like, nah, it should just be the Microphone Prince. Like, that's perfect. I was like, yeah, okay.
Got it.
So, then I went on and recorded a record with Busy D, Capone, and it was the Microphone Prince from then on.
Got it.
So I was like 85.
All right. And did anyone, the Microphone Prince, that's a pretty cool moniker, Did you ever have anyone trying to, steal that name?
Yeah, this story I got from Tyrone Williams. Fly Ty, he's like the Berry Gordy of Cold Chillin' Records, and Cold Chillin' Records had Big Daddy Kane, Juice Crew, Roxanne Shante, Marley Marl, Mr. Magic. Like, they basically ran hip hop for a really long time. So he was shopping my demo, and I had a record called Girls, and he shopped it to Pop Art Records in Philadelphia, who was also dealing with a kid named Chill Will. So Fly Ty told me that they stole my name and gave it to Will Smith. So now he was the Fresh Prince That was the microphone Prince. Because everybody was like Prince something, Prince Marky D, Prince Whip a Whip. So I was like the microphone Prince, and he was the Fresh Prince.
Right.
And then my record was Girls, and his was Girls Ain't Nothing But Trouble.
Right.
So, I probably would have thought that, but I don't tell the story because I thought it. I tell the story because the president of Cold Chillin' Records told me that. He was shopping me and Roxanne Shante and MC Shan at the same time.
Right.
And, so he knows that they took it,
Got it. Now, you had told me about a story, when you said Roxanne Shante, it reminds me of the story you told me about Roxanne.
Mm-hmm.
Can you give me some background on that?
Yeah.
Because you also sent me some footage with you and the Throwdown 4 rapping.
Right. So in '82, when we were in high school art and design, I wrote a routine for me and Capone. I was the writer mostly. And I remember when I was writing it, I was like, this has never been done. There's never been a routine where a guy's rhyming and then somebody else comes in and interrupts him and then they're arguing and then it's still rhyming and it's going back and forth and they're arguing over a girl. What made me think of doing that was a song, a rhyme by Grandmaster Caz called Yvette. So he made a rhyme about he was with the crew, he went to see the girl, and the girl's father came in and he ran away. So it was. I was like, all right, well, I'm gonna make it a two-man routine, and we're gonna argue over the girl. And so when me and Capone broke up, and I got down with the Throwdown, I got back down with the Throwdown 4. We did that as a routine, and it turned into a 4-man routine where all 4 of us had parts and all that stuff, and it was real popular in the Bronx. The video I gave you might be the first time we did it, but there were other jams that we would do. We battled, Kid Capri was down in a group called the Throwdown 3. So we went, we were supposed to jam at Pole Park.
Okay.
We had flyers out, so I have a flyer, I think I gave you a flyer that says Pole Park. That jam never happened because it rained. But the following Saturday, we did the battle in Walton Avenue by Kingsbridge. And Grandmaster Caz was there, Charlie Chase was there, and while we were doing our routines, battling, the crowd started chanting, Yvonne, Yvonne. Pretty soon the whole crowd was yelling Yvonne, and we had to do Yvonne. Like, it was that well known throughout the neighborhood. People loved it. It was a little X-rated and stuff, you know what I mean? But, yeah, so fast forward, Paradise was our DJ. So Paradise also happens to be, right now, the head curator for the Hip Hop Museum. He has many hip-hop archives and documents and pictures. At the time, he was cool with UTFO. So since we weren't doing the routine anymore, he was helping UTFO. He was like, yo, y'all should do a song about a girl where all y'all are kind of arguing over the girl. In our routine, the crux of the problem was that, I thought she was a good girl and she was promiscuous. So then he started, he had sex with her and all that. So Roxanne, they kind of switched it, and they were all chasing her, but nobody got her.
Right.
So they did that, and then after the record was blowing up, I was in Brooklyn with Paradise one day, and he was like, "Hey, how do you like our record?" I was like, "What do you mean our record?" He was like, "Roxanne." He was like, "That's Yvonne." So I was pretty hot, And at some point, they did a show. We were on a show with them, and a place called the Stardust Ballroom. And that show was set up by Poppy and Ray Chandler. And they were there, and they came and they performed Roxanne, and then they were leaving. They had huge bodyguards and people all around them. So they were leaving. So before they got to the door, we ran up on the stage, we grabbed the mic, so we had like routines ready for them and all that. We called them stuff, bit out stuff, blah, blah, blah. So they turned around and they came back and they got on stage with us. We were all in a fight. I would really want to punch somebody in the face, but they really had big bodyguards.
Right.
So, whatever, they wound up just leaving, but we confronted them, we got them back on stage and we let them know that they copied our stuff. And then we did our show and we ripped it down or whatever, But yeah, man, there's been a couple of things that have been taken,
Right. Yeah.
It's just a concept, but they probably sold a couple of million records,
Right. Wow. That's really good background to Roxanne that I'm pretty sure the public has never heard.
Yeah, and if you think about it, that record was what made Roxanne Shante respond. Roxanne responding is what kind of blew up BLS. And then the Juice Crew came behind that. So just, that little situation right there spawned Cold Chillin' and the Juice Crew. Like, I'm sure they would have did great things either way, but the point is that their really first hit record was Roxanne Shante responding to Roxanne.
Right.
So it's just the name Yvonne. If they would have just used Yvonne, then Shantae's name would have been Yvonne right now.
Right.
Because her name is Shantae, she chose Roxanne Shante because she responded,
Got
So if it would have been Yvonne, her name would have been Yvonne Shante.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Now, I saw something on your bio that triggered a lot of memories for me when I was a kid, because I'd be at home and I noticed on the radio there was this just obscure radio station from Medgar Evers College.
Mm-hmm.
And I keep telling people, very few people remember that.
Mm-hmm.
But you've got some deep history with Medgar.
Yeah.
Can you talk about the station, what was the station, and the background with Medgar Evers College that had one of the first hip-hop shows?
Yeah. Medgar Evers College had they were college obviously, so they had a little college radio show. And in 1985, Ron Seaborn from the first label I signed with, he hooked up so we could have a show. So at the time, the only shows that were on the air were the Awesome 2, which is like at 2 o'clock in the morning on WHBI. This is before Bobito and Stretch. And BLS and KISS had nighttime radio shows. KISS was Red Alert, and BLS was Juice Crew, Marty Marl. So we were the first ones to start playing records in the daytime. And it was at Medgar Evers College, right on Eastern Parkway. And Paradise lived across the street from the college.
In Brooklyn.
Yeah. So that's kind of what he told me about the Roxanne thing. But yeah, we had a show and we would rap live on the air. We would have DJs, and we always, like Big A.k.a. had a DJ called Mr. C. Mr. C wound up, discovering Biggie and being a DJ at 107 for years, and we were the first ones that put Mr. C on the air to DJ in the daytime.
Got it.
Jazzy Joyce too. Jazzy Joyce for years has been on. She was in Juice. She was in movies and she's been on 107 for years, and she's an icon just herself. And we were the first ones that put her on the radio. It was the first daytime radio show. We used to do Win a Date with Nice and Smooth contests because they were my boys, and yeah, so had a little radio experience too,
Right. I mean, as an archivist, I just keep thinking of that treasure trove of archives they have over at Medgar Evers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we didn't use any of that stuff. We would make our tapes ahead of time, or usually we would do like the DJ part of it, and then we would play it, and then we would rap over it, whatever. But they had another DJ there called Marvelous Marv that he was playing hip hop records, but we were like rapping live on the air and all that stuff every week,
Got it. And that was what 91.5 WNYE.
91.5 WNYE. I don't know. Wait, it sounds. Wait, I don't know about you, but it sounds funky to me. Yeah, we used to have all kind of people call up, I'm sending you something from YouTube that we did, but yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of tapes out there somewhere with us,
When did you start at Medgar Evers College, and how long did that last?
85, I was there for about 2 years.
Got it.
Like 85 to 86.
All right. Awesome. And moving on in your career, in 1992, talk to us about how you got down with Polygram and the Next Plateau.
Okay, so I was with Greg Nice. That's my boy. We kind of grew up together since we were like 13, 14. So we were together one day, and I told him one day, I was like, I would like to be the first rapper to have a yacht. And he was like, well, somebody already beat you to it. I was like, who? He was like, Tito, the devastating Tito from the Fearless Four. So Fearless Four was the first group to sign to a major label. So Tito would be the first Puerto Rican in the group to sign to a major label, and the Master OC was the DJ and producer. So they were one of the groups that had 2 Puerto Ricans, and then the rest of the guys were black. And it's funny because Peso, he's the blackest one, he's the darkest one, And I used to always think that peso was the Spanish dude because peso.
Right.
But it was Tito. So Tito had just signed with Marky D, Prince Marky D, Mark Morales from the Fat Boys. He had a label called Soul Convention, and he signed Tito with a group called Menagerie. They were dope. They were like, if you think of Guy, because they were from Harlem, and they had that kind of swag and that kind of music, but they were Puerto Ricans and two of them were rappers, and then one guy was a singer. So anyway, that was popping off. So Master OC had did a bunch of records with Next Plateau, Eddie O'Loughlin from Next Plateau. They had Masters of the Scratch. Like OC had about 4 or 5 hit records after the Fearless disbanded, and they had records with Peso and Tito, and they had classics. But Next Plateau wanted to sign a Puerto Rican rapper, so they wanted to sign Tito. But Tito had just signed with Soul Convention and Marky D. So Greg had taken me over to Tito's house. So the thing about the yacht. So I asked Greg, I was like, but, because at this time, Fearless Four hadn't had a hit record in 3 or 4 years, 4 or 5 years. So I was like, how can you possibly have a yacht if, they don't even have any records out? And he was like, you know how. So, he was doing a little hustle or whatever outside of the music. So when I went to Tito's house, he kind of auditioned me, and I rhymed, and we had a group called the Redcoats. But he's the one that sent me over to Master OC, and Master OC was shopping my stuff. I did a production on a record called Trunk of Funk, and when they heard that, they were like, "Hey, we want to sign him." So that was 92.
Got it.
And then I found out later that they were through Polygram, so it was the first time that there was a Puerto Rican solo MC on a full-length album through a major, which is Polygram.
Nice.
So, and that was, the same year Fat Joe came out, and obviously he did great things, you know what I mean? So, it kind of doesn't matter that I was first, but it matters to me, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
No record label had ever believed in a Puerto Rican MC enough to put $60,000 on a budget for them, you know what I
That's
mean?
a lot of money back then.
Right, so, if you do the math now, it's probably 150,000, but, it felt good to somebody to believe in you and think that you could do something good,
Right. And did you get involved in the underground mixtape scene?
Yeah, because after that record ran its course, and we had Charlie Chase. Charlie Chase probably did like a third of the album, which a lot of people don't know that he's a producer.
Right.
But once that ran its course, yeah, we just started kind of doing mixtapes, and I would do 15, 16 song CDs and put them out and sell them for $4 or $5, and we always made our money back. We always sold a bunch of records, so we were always active in hip hop, one way or another, whether it was on a label or in the street, underground.
Got it. And I kind of ran through the beginning. That's not all of your career, but I kind of failed to ask you, back in your earlier days, what was your most memorable battles, and against whom?
We had a battle against these guys called the Brothers 3. They were like the best group around Highbridge before we came out, because we had a lot of routines, and we would notice that sometimes they would do their routines over, and then something happened at a jam, and somebody said something, and then they started rhyming and battling us, but they didn't know that we had prepared and memorized specific routines about them. So we were just kind of waiting for them. We knew they were going to say something slick, so they did. And then, since it was 4 of us and 3 of them. So part of the gimmick of the battle, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go first, because it's 3 of y'all, it's 4 of us. So I'm gonna take all y'all by myself, and then I'm gonna step back and let my crew handle y'all one-on-one. So I was like, it was all a cappella. I was like, time has come for the battle. The rappers rumble. 3 of one, 3 of y'all and 1 of me, and y'all outnumbers. Kid Zeke got crushed, Crazy Kev got mushed, Iceman getting melted and turned to slush. It was at some point I said, song, yeah, you're all excited. Come to think of it, you wasn't even invited. And like, pandemonium where I couldn't even finish. And I was like, all right. And then I stepped off, and then my crew went against them. But that was it was like a well-known battle. We had the mixtapes out, we had the tapes out, people were copying them, and they were getting around the hood. So a lot of people knew about that. The second one, was Kid Capri, and so they would throw down 3, and we would throw down 4. They were nice.
What year was that?
84.
Got it.
84. We were supposed to battle in Pool Park. It rained, and we did the thing in Jerome Avenue, and that was a big battle. They started screaming out for Yvonne. Way years later, I know this is probably, but it's kind of a battle. I did a song for Jay-Z. So Star from Hot 97, Aaliyah, the singer, had just died. She was dating Damon Dash. So Star, he started playing like plane crashes and stuff like that, or like kind of making fun of it, which wasn't really cool. You know what I mean? So he pissed off Jay-Z and Damon Dash. They had words. So we were doing the Ironclad thing with Devastating Tito. We'll probably get to that in a minute. But we had a group with Devastating Tito, and he should I go to that, or you want to just get to that later?
No.
It was just a battle. So Star asked Tito to do a diss rap for Jay-Z. So Tito had me do it, and he played it like 3 times. He was on from 5 to like 9 a.m. and he would play it every hour on the hour, 3 times every morning. And Jay-Z heard about it. He called the station. It was a whole bunch of stuff. Fat Joe, because I said something about Pun, because it was allegedly Pun. It was a story that Pun had hit Jay-Z with a bottle of champagne. So I had a line about that. I was like, this is what the hood be like, son. Hit you with a champagne bottle so I could really be like Pun. And Fat Joe heard it. He called. Leo Cohen's called, like, yo, what's going on? Because Jay's album was coming out, and we were going at Jay-Z pretty hard. That was the thing that wound up having Star lead Hot 97, behind that battle. But I just mentioned it because it was probably like the biggest. It wasn't a battle because he never responded, but he responded in subliminals. He would do like mixtape things and put them out. Star was known as the hater. So, and when some freestyle that he did, he was like, see me now, I'll see you later. You don't even know me and you're mad how it feels to be a hater. So I know he was talking about me because Star was the hater and Star knows him. But now Star had somebody who didn't know him, how do you feel being a hater like him, And then it was like, mother effers want to know my net worth. And N-words wake up on eat some breakfast first. Because I was going at him hard from 5 o'clock in the morning, 6 o'clock in the morning, 7 o'clock in the morning. They were like, yo, eat some breakfast first. So he responded, but this was after Jay-Z, after 50 Cent, so he didn't want to respond in a way and make somebody blow up. So he wouldn't say my name or anything, but I could, we could always hear the little lines that he was throwing back, so I know he heard it,
Right. And talk to us about how your career has evolved since then.
Well, I want to go back a little bit to the Ironclad because Tio was down with the Fearless 4, and then he did a record with Troop, which was the same group with Clark Kent, and then he signed with Marky D. So he kept doing other things. So in 2001, one of the things we did was we started a group called Ironclad Entertainment. Because Coogee Rap had asked Tio to be on a song with Coogee Rap, Nas, AZ, and Tio. So Tio called me. He came and picked me up just so I could be in his house when he wrote the rhyme because he respected my pen, And I didn't give him any lines or anything, but we were just writing and we were in the zone. And he wrote a great verse for a record called Papa Collar with Coogee Rap. So they did that, but that got him open to do a group. So we did, it was Boricuas for Life. Me and him was Boricuas for Life, and then the whole crew was Ironclad. So we did a bunch of stuff. We had a tour bus with our pictures wrapped all around it. We had an expedition that matched with also pictures wrapped around it. We did videos, we did songs with Big Daddy Kane, Coogee Rap, Akinelli.
Wow.
So, that was kind of where, Star called us to do the Jay-Z disc. But we did a lot, and it was all self-funded. We didn't have a label. We were just kind of hustling and doing it ourselves. But that was a big thing for me because Tio from the Fearless 4 you know, he was like an idol to me. You know what I mean? Like, you know, like I never seen a group go up on stage and when he comes out, women are screaming. You know what I mean? Like, wow. You know what I mean? Like, you know, that told me that not only could I rap, I could rap at the, you know, it's not a black only sport. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because he was doing great. You know, it's like we were black and we were all together in the hood. But, you know, that's what really let me know that, you know, it was possible. So to do a group with him later and do songs with Big Daddy Kane and, you know, Coogee Rap, like, you know, that was crazy. So that lasted from around 2000 to 2003. We did a song called I Seen It All for a soundtrack of the movie Empire with John Leguizamo and Fat Joe. You know, you know, I kind of did a lot of mixtapes and stuff after that, and I always pop in. I did a commercial with Lala on Hot 97 for a shoe company. We would always do little things that would pop out here and there. But most recently, it's been the argument about Latinos or Puerto Ricans in hip hop that has got me my attention. Like I've been kind of writing and focusing on songs that musically document the history. Right. You know. Of what I know, you know, and it's good because, you know, a lot of people don't have a lot of facts, so they can listen to these songs and there's a lot of facts that they can use if they want to claim a little stake in hip hop as Puerto Ricans do, you know.
Right. Well, you definitely have a deep history with a lot of well-known rappers in the industry. I mean, so your history is undisputable. Now, you know, before we go deep into that, you know, were there any rappers really that you knew or you rolled with that aren't as popular, you know, and didn't really get their names out, you know, that you wanted to throw a shout out to?
I mean, all those groups, man, Brothers 3, Incredible 3. I mean, that's really it. Everybody else after that was like in the you know, with actual labels and stuff like that. But as far as groups that should have got, I would say the Incredible 3 and the Brothers 3 from you know, the early 80s.
Got it. Now, you know, you explained, you know, the reason why you started rapping in regard to Puerto Rican contributions within, you know, the rap industry. You know, which was your first rap that you did, or your first video, you know, in that regard? And I don't mean to put you on the spot, but at any time, if you want to throw a couple lines, you know, in acapella, please do.
I mean, we always did a bunch of little videos, but I mean, my first official video was when I got with Next Plateau Polygram, and we did a song called Smooth Criminal. You know, that was like my first official video. You know, it wasn't like now that you know, walk around with an iPhone and shoot a video that had, you know, we had the tracks on the floor with the camera, the dollies and cranes and stuff like that. So and that's really where my video career started. But we did videos with Ironclad, Akinelli. Those, you know, was really like the first videos that we did.
God, you know, and you had mentioned you know, you had gotten a bus, you know, and you had it all wrapped, you know, on a tour. You know, what was the first tour you went on, you know, and who was with you and what year?
I guess the first, we weren't on the whole tour, but we did a lot of spot dates with Cold Chillin', with the Juice Crew, you know, Big Daddy Kane, Roxanne, Bismarck, Rakim was doing shows. So we did, you know, we always ran around with that. Fresh Prince, you know, like that's like early rap, you know, like Finesse and Sinquist, like all these groups from the late 80s. Yeah, man. We did a lot of good things. One time we did a show at the Beacon Theater. It was the Juice Crew All Stars, and Rakim wasn't down with the Juice Crew, but he was with them. So it was, again, Fly Ty, Tyrone Williams, he put us on a show. So we go, we're backstage or whatever, and it's early. So we were the opening act. So in my head, I don't think I got that. I think I got that. We're doing a show at the Beacon, and, you know, so they're like, where's microphone Prince? Prince, go, start your show. So I peek out the curtain, and it's at about 20% capacity. So it's empty. People in the lobby, people outside are like, I'm not gonna perform right now. There's nobody there. But stupid. It's your job. The opening act's literal job is to start playing so people hear the music and they start coming in.
Right.
And then they get everybody in. But I didn't get that. I was on some ego stuff. So I was like, I'm not doing it. I walked out of the Beacon Theater, Tyrone Williams, Rakim, Roxanne, Biz Markie, Stetsasonic, MC Shan. Like, I'm not doing it. So Tyrone chased me down the block. He was like, if you don't get your ass back there, you sure I'm not playing on your records, I'm not putting you on no more shows. So I went back, we did our show, and just like it was supposed to be. As soon as we started rhyming, everybody came in, and by the time we finished our song, it was packed. And then we got off stage and Rakim came. So I was like, oh, okay, I get it. But yeah, I didn't know what I was doing. I walked out of the Beacon Theater, bro. And now that's one of my biggest things in my life and my career. Like, I performed at the Beacon Theater.
Wow.
With the Juice Crew, Rakim came right after me, So that was cool.
Yeah. That's cool that he came down and he chased you down, or.
Yeah, because he could have just told me, forget it. They played our records. Like, Magic played our record every single week. I still got cassette tapes of Magic talking on top of our record,
Nice. That's awesome. And, as of late, what were the latest videos that you've been putting out?
So lately, ever since the conversation has turned into a division that's, being caused by, I would say, like the FBA, they have like this axe to grind, and so
people that ain't from the Bronx,
right? And people that are too young, I know it's black culture, but they're saying FBA like it's foundational. It only includes people whose ancestry goes back to a slave plantation. And Grandmaster Flash is not FBA. Kool Herc is not FBA. So you can't say it's strictly FBA. So
right. Africa Bambaataa is not FBA.
Right. So so all the music I've been doing lately has been with the purpose of kind of doing like since there's a lot of conversation online, I figure first of all I'll do it in the form of hip hop. So y'all talking about who did what, who made what, I'm still speaking the language of hip hop. So I'm going to use that to do the music that gives people the facts. So when anybody who's interested in facts, or they want to argue with somebody, or they want to make a claim, they can always listen to one of my records and know, wow, African descendant Juan Garrido helped Ponce de Leon conquer Puerto Rico, a conquistador in 1509 when he helped bring African slaves to the island. The native population was decimated. Spanish brought 15,000 slaves in, forced to mine gold, built forts for masters, and they stole the riches they named it after. Original ancestry gave way to a new strain of native, master, and slave. Even the name Taino, a treasonous gift, describing a race of people who have ceased to exist. So it's like I put all this stuff in the music. This particular song is called You Must Learn, because KRS won a song with a lot of black history called You Must Learn.
Right.
So since he's an advocate for Puerto Ricans in hip hop, I redid the song You Must Learn, and I put all the facts about Puerto Ricans in it. So that way it's easy for people to remember. So now, I like to arm people with information, And sometimes, the easiest way to do that is through music. So I did a song for a documentary by Dr. Derek Colon, called The Spanish Breakdown, where he's talking about the influences that Latino musicians had on breakbeats and percussions and all that kind of stuff. So I did a whole breakdown about that. So it's pretty much 3 songs that explain all the contributions of Puerto Ricans, specifically, but other Latinos as well, to hip hop. And the last song is the Ghetto Brothers, which is, when you go through all the arguments and you watch all the videos and all the disrespect and all this and that, it's always, oh, how soon were you, we were before you. All right, so the Latin Breakdown takes us to the 1940s and the 50s. Oh, that's not good enough? Okay, how about we're going to give you the story of the Puerto Rican gang that created a peace throughout the city of New York, and that's the thing that created the soil that birthed hip-hop. So there's no way that they can take us out of the history, because if it wasn't for Puerto Rican specifically, there would have never been that peace.
Right.
And hip hop is the main thing about hip hop is it's about unity and peace, and it's the opposite of fighting and killing each other. So even to have this conversation now goes against the very essence of hip hop, because hip hop doesn't discriminate. And you could be Greek, Chinese. If you come, you get on that mic and you do your thing, everybody loves you.
Right.
If you do your breakdancing, no matter what color you are, everybody loves you. And that's the inclusive thing about hip hop, you know?
Right. Who was the founder and the president of the Ghetto Brothers? And we're talking 70, 71.
Yeah, it was primarily Yellow Benji, Benjamin Melendez, and Karate Charlie. Charlie, I forgot his last name, but they were the heads. Charlie was more of a hothead, and Karate Charlie was more of a hothead, and Yellow Benji was kind of the main person trying to turn it into peace. So they were influenced by the Young Lords and Black Panthers, and they turned the Ghetto Brothers from one of the lines goes, the Ghetto Brothers realized the mission was sacred. They evolved from a gang to an organization. They put down the toolies and found strength and unity and ran programs for the kids in the community. You know, so they turned into like a Young Lords kind of organization. And there was a kid by the name of Benjamin Cornell, and his nickname was Black Benji. And he was actually addicted to drugs, and the Ghetto Brothers helped him kick. And once they did that, they saw that he had a way with kids, and so he would always speak to the kids, and in the community centers and stuff. And he was a good guy, and he was actually all gangs had a position called warlord. So the Ghetto Brothers turned that position into peacekeeper, and they got Black Benji, and he's the one that went to try to squash a beef with a bunch of groups, and he got killed. He lost his life, and the city was about to be bathed in blood.
What year was this?
71.
Early.
Right. This is, and you think about it, it lines up because there's no matter what date you try to put on hip hop, they say 73, 72, it makes sense that December 8th, 1971, Benjamin became the last thing he'd ever become, a martyr who gave his life that fateful night, trying to turn darkness to light and make wrong things right. So that was 71 December. So 72, the peace treaty was in effect, and the Ghetto Brothers originally started coming out doing jams.
Right.
So even the jams are connected to them. They weren't scratching and DJing, but they were playing instruments, and they were playing soul music, they were playing funk music, rock music,
A band.
everything. Yeah, right. And they invited all the other gangs to come, wear your colors and come be brothers with us, and let's party and let's have music, and that's the whole thing about hip hop, coming together as a community, creating music. And then if you still want to compete, okay, well, grab a mic, grab a cardboard box and do your breakdancing. You know what I mean?
Right.
That we could disagree that way. And it always struck me like that always sounded like such a fairy tale.
Right.
Like really, like everybody just decided to start doing these things instead of killing each other. But then when I saw Rubble Kings, I saw the real story. I was like, oh yeah, that's exactly what it was.
Right.
And even Bambaataa and Herkimer, because Bambaataa was with the Black Spades, and then they turned that into Zulu Nation based on this peace treaty. So they turned it from Black Spades to a nation of an African nation, identifying with their culture and unity and brotherhood. Like that was the whole. That's. They say there's graffiti, breakdancing, MCing, and DJing. Love and unity was the first element. Because that's the thing that, once we all got together, then it turned into, okay, let's be creative,
Right.
But without that peace treaty, without that unity, hip-hop wouldn't have came around.
Right. And we collaborate with our oldest collaboration with Fordham University is over 20 years old with the Bronx African American History Project.
Yeah.
And it's definitely a lot of Black Spades and a lot of gang members, that people really need to go in and look at those archives, in our Bronx Latino History Project, we have over 13 interviews with the current president of the Ghetto Brothers.
Okay.
You know, Evaristo Roman. So I encourage people to go back, you know, and listen to those interviews and pick up a lot of that history that you're speaking of right now. And definitely watch that movie, the documentary, The Rubber Kings.
Yeah, The Rubber Kings, yep.
You know, that's awesome. You know, so yeah, let's move on to where your career is, you know, in the 2000s, you know.
I mean, that's really it. You know, it's hard to be a 58-year-old man. I was with my grandson last year, and he saw a video, and he was like, "Baba, you're a rapper?" I was like, "Oh, yeah." He got up in the middle of the restaurant, "My Baba's a rapper!" I was like, "Shh," you know, it's all kind of embarrassing, you know what I mean? But, you know, it's not so much about trying to prove that Puerto Ricans are in hip hop but it's just at some point the rhetoric and the conversation turned into that all Puerto Ricans were prejudiced and we hated black people. And that's when it got real personal for me. I'm like, no, you can't change my history. You can't change what I saw when I walked out of my door every day. You can't change that I had a black family and they came to my house and ate, and I ate over at their house and we were all together. You know, you're not going to change that. So, you know, it's almost like an excuse to keep rapping and putting out music, you know?
Right.
And, you know, the studio's $50 an hour. It's in the Bronx. You know, every time I go to the studio, it's $300, you know, $400. But I'm investing into it because what, you know, hip hop has always, in a certain way, it's been wasted. It's like people of color have never had a voice, and hip hop gave us a voice. And now if you listen to the music that, you know, for a long time, I did gangster rap and all that too. So, you know, I didn't appreciate the voice that I had either. You know, we were busy trying to promote ourselves or say whatever we said, misogynistic, homophobic, you know. But now at my age, you know, it's important to use the music to at least document the history.
Right.
You know? And that way I don't have to argue with nobody online. I don't have to just, here's my song.
Right.
You know, self-finance, and, you know, You Must Learn got over 500,000 views.
Wow.
I did a battle song for Lord Jamar, who was one of the main guys, you know, disrespecting Puerto Ricans. You know, he did a song saying, you know, like directly talking about Puerto Ricans and Jamaicans. I know you think I'm hating, but you had no influence in creation of this hip hop. Your participation was tip top, but we're the ones who showed you how to rip shop. Like, he was really disrespectful. Like, y'all didn't know how to dress. We showed you how to dress. We gave, you know what I mean? Like, he was really disrespectful. So, you know.
Lord Jamar, is he from the Bronx?
No, it's from New Rochelle. You know, and you know, he always said that the black people are the ones that taught us. And I was like, one of the lines in the song is, I got my style from black brothers, true, oh well, but not from you. You was up in New Rochelle. You know, well, I said, well, homie was in the suburbs without a fear. I was in the boogie down with the pioneers. There's no way I'm gonna let you commandeer true history. I'm rapping until I'm out of here.
Got it.
And, you know, that got, you know, like 200,000 views, and, you know, he never responded and stuff. But to me, it was offensive when he made a song about it. He was talking, and okay, I understand that. You know, I don't agree with it, but I understand that they get views, he gets paid according to views, so doing this big thing and hyping everybody up was a way for him to make money. But when he put it into the music, I was like, all right, now that's violation, because I'm an MC. I'm an MC to my heart. I'm always going to be an MC. I'll rip somebody in half at any given moment. And when he started disrespecting Puerto Ricans and Jamaicans in hip-hop, then I had to respond.
Got it.
So, you know, my last 3 or 4 songs have been all about responding to haters and documenting history and bringing things that people didn't know.
All right. You know, just to cut him some slack, you know, New Rochelle's not that far away, but was he walking the streets of New Rochelle in the 70s?
No way. And you know,
80s?
There's pictures of him back in the days dressed with dreadlocks, with the Puerto Rican flag, and he always had interviews where he was saying, you know, Puerto Ricans are N-words too. Like, they grew up so much around and with us that we're the same, and even though they're Spanish-speaking people, they still are. I still consider them black. And it was like, yeah, so.
And we have a deep African culture, you know?
Yeah, we were, you know, one of the things I did a podcast with Grandmaster Cash recently talking about this specifically, and there was a part where he goes into it saying, yeah, well, the Puerto Ricans were over there playing their congas and timbales, and we were over here doing our thing, and they were doing the same thing in their own culture. And I had to stop him. I was like, yo, but that's what you don't understand. That's not our own culture. That's Africa. We were bringing Africa to the hood. And those stores on Brook Avenue and Cypress Avenue, boom, 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 out there playing dominoes and all that, that's African culture that y'all were laughing at. You know, so I understand that, you know, black people were separated from their culture. They weren't allowed to practice their culture. But it was just ironic that, you know, the thing that they were describing as Mia music or, you know, pointy shoes music, that was African culture, and we were keeping it alive, you know? So we're all the La Fania All-Stars and all that, you know?
Yeah. We definitely have a proud African lineage, you know, that we don't deny.
Right, so if anything, hip-hop was the thing that reconnected everybody, you know? And there were Spanish, there were Puerto Rican influences in hip-hop, you know? Tito Puente played the beginning of Rapper's Delight, you know? Tito Puente. So from the beginning of the monetization of hip hop, from the gangs, from the truths, from the 40s where Dizzy Gillespie and you know all these Latin artists got together, there were James Brown hired a guy called John Griggs who he wasn't Puerto Rican, but he was a conga player and he was heavily influenced by Latin rhythms. And James Brown took him and made him part of the band. You could hear some of his famous songs have that rhythm at the beginning of it, inside the song. You know what I mean? So the division is the thing that's new, you know?
Right.
And James Brown appreciated Puerto Ricans and Latin musicians. Jimmy Castor made one of the greatest breakdance records in history, Just Begun. And they asked him in an interview what inspired you to do that break. You were like, oh, that's the Latin breakdown. You got to put that in there. Like the timbales, the congas, like this is a seminal hip hop record for breakdancing. You know, so it's just it's more a question of do you want to be brothers or do you want to argue? You know?
Right.
And hip hop, I was raised in hip hop, and I want to be brothers. You know.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's just begun. And the Mexican,
Apache, you know, Apache was a white group, but they were doing, you know, they were doing Spanish music. They were doing Spanish percussion and all that. And that's one of the greatest hip hop anthems. You know, like it's ridiculous. You know.
Definitely. You know, that's awesome. Was the, you know, before we end the interview, is there any last words that you want to, you know, get out there?
I'll just say that, you know, we have to grow up as a culture, you know, because I even have Puerto Ricans, when I said that the rap and DJing part of it, Puerto Ricans didn't invent that. Puerto Ricans got mad at me, and how they did, you know, they're coming at me in the comments, oh, you disgrace yourself by saying that. You know, the thing that should be respected is truth, you know, and so, you know, when this whole thing started, I was in my head, we created rapping too, but okay, we did, you know what I mean? Like Hollywood, Melly Mel, Cowboy, they were all black. Okay, Ruby D, Whip, and Tito came right after that, but we were a heavy influence in the graffiti. We were a heavy influence in the break beats, if not the DJing, the break beats. We were heavy influence in up rocking, break dancing, you know what I mean? So everybody should respect knowledge, and everybody should be able to not even accept knowledge. You should be thrilled. I'm thrilled when somebody comes and tells me something. I was thinking something different all these years, and somebody brings me some information and shows me something. I'm thrilled and thankful and blessed that I have accurate information, you know? And, you know, I would just say that we have to go back to the roots of hip hop, which is brotherhood, you know, and accepting what the reality was. Because how are we going to be together now if we can't even agree that we were together then?
Right.
It's a multi-billion-dollar industry, and there's kids growing up now thinking that we're just trying to tag along, we're just trying to claim something that isn't ours.
Right.
When it belonged to the Bronx, you know? 99.9% of black people had nothing to do with hip-hop. it was the black people that were in the Bronx. 99.9% of Puerto Ricans had nothing to do with hip hop. It was the Puerto Ricans that was in the Bronx. So we gotta start saying New York Ricans.
Right.
Because that's the difference,
A huge difference.
And I understand if I'm sitting here and I'm seeing people racist now, and some people can't differentiate between Mexican or Dominican, or they just, they see racism now and they think that that's the way it's always been. And, I really want to get that point out, it was a special thing. It was a special time. It was unique. It was hard to believe, but it happened.
That's right.
And I mean, that's really the crux of what's left of anything in my career is about that. Because I'm too old to be doing records about having sex with girls and selling drugs and shooting people. I did all that, and to me, emceeing is like a sport that you can only get better. If you're a boxer, you wear down. You can't fight no more. You can't play baseball. You can't do this. But your mind and your mouth, all you can do is add to your experience and add substance to the music that you're making. So if you're a good MC, you should be a leader.
Got it.
That's what I want to be, man.
And this project is for everyone. If you watch the videos, everything from the Aerosol Arts Project that we started with the writers,
Right.
And then the hip hop project where we started with the street dancers, and we moved into MCing, and DJing. It's an all inclusive. If you were from New York, and you were in the late '60s and the '70s, and the early '80s, you were a part of it. And if you weren't, you don't understand.
Right. I was telling Kaz, I said, we received the culture. I was sitting here and there was a black kid over here and a black kid over here. We received the culture at the same time.
Right.
There was no, I'm a salsa guy, I'm this, and then, oh, you guys are doing something nice over there. Let me come over and see what y'all doing. No, we were sitting there together, and all the hip hop was coming out, and we were absorbing it and getting it. We were getting the culture at the same time. We didn't come over from a different culture. Maybe people who were born in Puerto Rico, the older generation, there was some racism there. I know that for a fact. But our generation wasn't that. Our generation was about brotherhood.
Awesome. And that's the microphone Prince for the Bronx Hip Hop Oral History Project. Peace, brother.
Thank you, brother.